Thank you so much for joining us online today. We so appreciate you checking out this message. We hope you enjoy it and are inspired to live more and more like Jesus Christ by His grace. If you would like to support the ministries of Rancho, you can do so at rancho.tv/giving. Set up a giving profile and a reoccurring gift. We'd sure appreciate that. Enjoy.
There we go. Oh, there's people here.
There's a few.
This is awesome.
We kind of thought about, do we even do service today, day after Christmas?
We do one service.
One service or whatever. We did. No, I have no idea if people are going to show up. But you're here. I'm so happy to see you all.
Good to have you here.
For those online, thanks for joining us. We sure appreciate that.
And I'm wearing black for a reason.
Yeah, what's the reason?
That this is like my week of mourning because everyone starts taking out their Christmas lights. And like last night, my mom came to Christmas, and when I was taking her back to her home, I went to show her lights, and no one had their lights on.
You were just bummed out.
I'm just bummed out. Like, I hate this week. Like, do you say Merry Christmas? It's not. Do you say Happy New Year? It's not.
Not quite yet.
This is like the happy nothing week.
So you are just a miserable mess right now.
Well, I don't know about that. I had pancakes.
You had pancakes, yeah.
Yeah, good for the pancakes. And thanks to the guys out there. They're not going to be here after service, so I hope you got your pancakes before. But yeah, so... Anyways,
so we're going to kind of run through 2021.
We are going to look
this
over
week, and the next week you're going to lead us through kind of what's ahead. But we're going to take a little journey through 2021, which was interesting to say the least. I like how Megan put it. 2021 was supposed to be kind of the way out.
Yes.
And it's like the peekaboo, no. And we're kind of in that zone where, are we in, are we out? What are we going to do? And we just don't quite know. We're sort of in limbo. And that's not the best place to be, is in societal limbo. People get kind of anxious and a little frustrated. And I can totally relate to that. I mean, man, when the mask mandate hit again, I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. It's like most of us are sort of over that.
I saw a post on Instagram that it said like 2022. Yeah. It was like 2020, then TOO.
Yeah, like,
and I'm like,
get
it? 2022. And I was like, oh no.
We're not doing that.
Yeah, we're not doing it. We refuse.
What we're going to do is kind of do a brief journey through 2021.
Yes.
And just to kind of solidify our story, right? The story of Rancho, the story of kind of us, right? Together as a family of faith. Where have we been, which sets the stage for where we're going. And you might recall, of course, at the beginning of 2021, the lot was still shut down, including this church. We kind of sort of did our part and kind of complied, and some people liked that, some people didn't. But we had Easter outside in person, which was our first kind of big step of reuniting our church. And it was fantastic. It seems like forever ago. I can't believe it was just about 8 or 9 months ago. But this lawn was packed with people. It was awesome. We had 2 stages. This band was just full force, kind of crazy, fun time. And it was such a good time to get together. We'll say goodbye to our youth as they're heading out to the next room.
Bye, guys.
Take care. We'll see you. All right, goodbye. Did we offend you?
But people walk out,
like,
just
we're
not
out of
that
here.
many at once.
It happens every week. People walk out.
Yeah.
But we had this incredible Easter event, and then a month later we were back live in person inside, and it was so much fun. Yeah. And we've been, ever since, and we will remain that way no matter what. But it was good to get back together. And when we got back together, we called it a grand reopening.
Yeah.
Because the journey that we were on, not being in person for a whole year, was basically we can do whatever we want.
Yeah.
Anything that we were working on kind of gradually and incrementally, we can just say right here, right now, we're just going to do it. Yeah. And it was kind of fun, kind of freeing that we're going to really establish who Rancho uniquely is as a family of faith. Yeah. And so we started with this Circles.
Yeah, we did it.
Series.
And we're going to go through each of the series because I think it's kind of fun. It's been fun over the last couple services, just hearing your heart. We do think through why we do these series, but we started with Circles. And we wanted to identify, as we are coming back together, the different circles in each of our lives. We have work circles and family circles and friendships, all these different circles.
We're going to show you actually a graphic of the Circle series.
So we're going to have the graphics that might get you to remember the different series that we had. But that was it. There we go, yeah. And it was this idea of leading and loving, right? So we were kind of tying leading together with loving, and we think those things work hand in hand. Why was that? You came up with that little title. Yeah. Why leading and loving, and why did you see that?
Well, this was the first series back in person, and so we thought we're going to make it about relationships, right? The circles of relationships, family, friends, workplace, and then community, and we also called the entire world a circle of relationship. Yeah. No matter where we go, we're interacting with people to really make it a people-focused series. And the concept of leading and loving came from not only do we connect together, and not only are we eager to connect again, person to person, but let's lead with love.
Right.
And if we lead with love, in every circle we're in, we're going to lead each other and lead actually the world forward to be more like the world Jesus himself came to initiate. And really, when it comes to leadership, it's all about love. You can lead in other ways. You can lead with fear, you can lead with intimidation, you can lead with threats, but it's really best to lead with love, which is what Jesus did, right? If we love someone, what we say matters. If we love someone, what we say has real influence. And leadership really is about influence, right? So if we love someone and give a kind word to them, they're going to take that seriously, and they're going to really be built up by that. If we give a word, let's say, hey, you could have done that better, right? If we love that person, they're going to take that seriously and perhaps make some changes. And so we're leading and loving each other in every circle of life.
Right. And I think it was John Maxwell that one time talked about, like, everyone is a leader because leadership just means influence.
Right. Yeah.
And we're all influencing. Every one of us are influencing each other. So when you sit there and get that, you kind of look at that as the definition of leadership, then we're impacting with love, instead of the other things that you talked about. But when we looked at, church, we looked at work, we looked at different things like that. But the one that stood out as we talked this week to you was friends. Yeah. And I think coming out of, the pandemic and everything, it makes sense, but elaborate on it a little bit, because It was, that's the one that you kind of wanted to talk about,
Yeah, so as we talk about these circles of relationships, when there was a lockdown, of course, we focused on family. Basically, every other relationship was sidelined, and you're only kind of sequestered in your house, right? And which is typically family. And so there was this sort of a dry spell of friendship where the people that were your acquaintances and friends, people that you enjoyed kind of getting together with on a regular basis, you weren't together with them as much. And so there was sort of this hollow feeling, like I can't wait to get back to friendships. And so that was a big one for me, to just really enjoy getting back with friends. But also to double down on this personal journey of mine, which is a lifelong journey of developing deeper friendships and more friendships. I could tend to be a little introverted. That's not unusual for pastors to be introverted. It's not unusual for people to have their home as sort of a refuge, a safe place where, maybe, your life at work is kind of filled with a lot of people. You want to go home and just kind of be us. I have that tendency for sure. As a young person growing up, my career ambition was to be a commercial architect sitting in a cubicle with a computer designing buildings by myself. So that was like my entire vision of life. And to kind of get sidetracked into ministry, which I love and absolutely enjoy it, there's a lot of people there, and so sometimes that's uncomfortable. So this friendship circle for me was real important to say, all right, keep working on this. Yeah. Keep working on building more friendships and deeper friendships, and invite more people into your home. Yeah. It's not just a safe haven; it's really a place for hospitality. So we've been working on that quite a bit.
Yeah, that's awesome. One of the statements you made was church can either be a place of deep connection or it can be a crowd of lonely people. And so I just want to encourage everyone, you're a leader. Your life's impacting, and wherever you are, you're impacting people. And whether it be just on a campus like this together, saying hi and seeing who people are and getting people's names, you can make a difference. Yeah. We're all impacting each other. John 15 was the verse that kind of was the foundation of this, like, love each other in the same way I've loved you. And here's the cool part. He goes on to say right after that in verse 15, and I no longer call you slaves because a master doesn't confide in slaves. Now you are my friends. How beautiful. So it's the idea that love as I have loved you, and I'm calling you my friends. And so what a beautiful series that was, just kind of talking about that. Then we went into our summer. Yeah. And our summers are a longer series, usually a couple months long, but it was a good one. It was one of my favorites we did of the year, Reimagine. And we went back and forth on this title in our group meeting, like, are you sure you want to what's this thing? Too many words, it's too long, but there was we stuck with it, and you did, because of what it was representing.
Yeah, so what we wanted to talk about. The Reimagine a graphic here. Hopefully we can get that on the screen. Yeah. It's really this idea that we're going to imagine again something that Jesus already imagined. So the reimagine is walking with Jesus as he reimagined the way the world could be and should be. if you really look at the life and ministry of Jesus, I think that's primarily what he was doing. Yeah. And why he became so popular, then so controversial, and why ultimately the people in power wanted him put to death. Because he was looking at the world as it was, and he was saying, no, the world as it was is not acceptable. It is not acceptable that this world is driven by political power and religious power and oppressing people along the way. It is unacceptable. So he reimagined the world that could be and should be a world that he called the kingdom of heaven. He basically imagined heaven on earth. So you can kind of subtitle the entire ministry of Jesus, Heaven on Earth. That's what he was teaching, that's what he was practicing, is how can we reimagine a world that looks a lot like heaven? And so everybody else was confused. They're like, that can't happen here. It's just, there's so much oppression, there's so much hurt, there's so much poverty, there's so much pain. And Jesus kept pushing through that and pushing through that. No, this will happen. Heaven will be established on the earth. That's how he taught us to pray, right? Your kingdom come, your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. And so this caused people to pay close attention to this. He reimagined a world that looks a lot like heaven. So we walked that journey with Jesus, reimagining that, and it was kind of fun.
Yeah, and when you think about it, the people that were most attracted, like those that felt outside, when he's doing the Sermon on the Mount, blessed are the poor, blessed are the meek. I mean, it's like the religious leaders are hating it because, he's imagining a world that's not controlled by religion. And without a doubt, at that point, religion had become such a dominating force. Right. And I think a negative dominating, authoritarian force. He didn't come to start a new religion. He came to sit there and put religion aside and say, this is what it looks like for all people everywhere, being this vision of God. And the crazy thing is, when we were thinking about this, I didn't think about it too, we were talking about it, but we've just done it all over again. Yeah. Since then, we have basically, religion again has become this wall for people. Are you in? Are you out? Are you doing it right? Are you thinking right? You're in, you're out. And so I think when we did the reimagine, here we are 2,000 years later, trying to reimagine just the kingdom of God again, not religion, not that which holds people back.
So over the past couple of years, you're exactly right. We've moved backwards as humankind. We've moved backwards into primal tribalism. And it's understandable, right? Primal tribalism is this instinct in our brain. You do a lot of studying of the human brain because you're very smart.
I'm kind of like a scientist, like a neuroscientist. Yeah, I've read like 2 books. I'm an expert, so I got it all figured out.
But we actually do like the subject quite a bit because the human brain is wired to respond to threats. And so, for example, if a pride of lions is coming your direction, you're out there working on the garden, human brain says, that's a threat. Human brain says, I got to get people who are in my tribe to collectively defend ourselves against the threat. Right. That's the way the human brain is wired for human survival, so it's completely understandable. Now here we have the pandemic. There's not a pride of lions, but there's this disease that is sweeping the globe. And everybody is in a kind of fight or flight mode. The brain is not wired for 2 years of perceiving constant threat. And so we get very agitated and we get incredibly primal. And so what we do is we say, okay, well, who's like me? They're my people and everybody else is a threat. This is my political party. Everybody else is a threat. This is my, brand of religion. Everybody else is a threat. I'm right, they're wrong, I'm good, they're bad. And the rhetoric goes through the roof. Social media goes through the roof. And so we got primal, we got tribal during this pandemic. And so part of the Reimagine series was to walk with Jesus, who was also in a very primal and tribal environment. There were the Romans, there were the Jews, and they hated each other. There were the Sadducees and Pharisees, and they hated each other. There were 11 political parties, and they hated each other, right? So to walk with Jesus through that scenario felt very good because we're in some similar weeds here. Yeah. And the victory here in Christ is to get past primitive tribal thinking and to say, you're my sister, you're my brother. We disagree on politics, fantastic. Let's have some friendly conversation and let's move on. We might disagree on some religious perspectives. Fine, you're my brother and sister. Let's move on. Let's live in the grace of God through Jesus Christ as we have these conversations together and learn from each other, right? And try to solve the problems around us. But we're walking in friendship, we're walking in grace. That's the world that Jesus reimagined.
And the foundation of it, right, was how he helped us to reimagine God through Christ.
Absolutely.
Right? That was the focus. I mean, the focus, we are this Christ, we call ourselves this Christ-centric church. And it's not that other churches don't think about Christ, they do, but like he's become like, we see Jesus, we see God. And one of the statements in this series was, Jesus invites us to stop believing in a vengeful judge and to start believing God as a loving Father. That, this is something that's been passionate for you, is like looking at how they saw God in the Old Testament, vengeful, looking over, ready to come down on you. And Jesus changes that. He reimagines the very like character of who God is through his ministry and through his teaching, which came out as Abba Father, which could have been one of the first times. I mean,
so I've done a little bit of research on this, and from everything I have found so far, and I still have some more work to do, is I think when Jesus called God Abba, which is translated dad, Jesus called God a dad, a perfect dad. I think it was the first time in human history that God was called by that name. In every other religion, including the Judaic religion that Jesus was born into, God was distant and powerful and a judge ready to pounce. He wanted our obedience. He wanted our devotion. He wanted our adherence to the specifics of every religious command and every religious ceremony. Then we would earn his blessing, and then he would make us prosperous. That is the Old Testament paradigm. And that was a very elementary thing, as we find out later through the teaching of Jesus and God's word. Jesus came to bring something more, something different, something new, a new covenant where God is a father. God is perceived as dad, always for us, never against us, forgiving us of everything we've ever done and everything we ever will do. He embraces us and accepts us just as we are. This is a whole new way of thinking about God that Jesus brought for the very first time. So you're right, everything that Jesus reimagined and everything that we reimagine is based on that new definition of God. He is dad to us, not just something to be feared out there. He's not going to just get us because we, don't comply with his rules. He's not just angry and disappointed with us. He is a dad who's just loving us and pouring his best into us always, even when we fail. And that's freedom. That is real freedom.
Man, one of the stories that comes to mind in John chapter 8 with the adulterous woman, and they want to stone her to death. And he does who's out without sin, cast the first stone, they all leave. But what's fascinating is later on in that chapter, to the discussion that starts happening, they go after Jesus. I mean, they all leave, but they go after him. And they're sitting there saying, he goes, Ben, they go, we're just using the law. We're using the law of Moses. And he goes, no, you are using human tradition. You're not talking about the very heart of God. And it's a fascinating reality that judgmental, legalistic kind of idea that God is just looking down, and Jesus comes and just flips that upside down and gets us to see him as a loving Father. I love 1 John 3. See what great love the Father has lavished on us, that we should be called children of God, and that is what we are. That is cool. That is what you are. Oh, how great the Father has just lavishly loved you, that you are called children of God, and that is what you are. And I love John 14:9. Jesus says, anyone who has seen me has seen the Father. This is it, man. At the end of 1 John, the very last verse says, and keep yourself from idols, and it's over. Right before that, it talks about Jesus being the exact image of God. Jesus is how we know and see God. Then it ends by saying, keep yourself from idols. It's almost like if it doesn't look like Jesus, it ain't God.
That's right.
Yeah, I love that. We could talk about, this is one of our favorite subjects. Sure. We could talk about that one for a long time. But then summer came to a close. We're kind of launching into September, going, we're going to go have Wednesday nights again. Our children are going to have the super fantastic Wednesdays. We're going to do small groups. So we did a series called The Table. And we wanted to just we had that big old table up here, and we wanted to launch into like small groups and start getting that thought. Carissa kind of launched into this one as our small groups pastor. And she came up with 3 kind of focuses of our small groups: connecting, cause, and celebration. And connecting and cause we get, like we connect together, we want to have things we're doing together. But I think the one that stood out for both of us, as a matter of fact, we had a lot of discussion with her too about that celebration. But over time, that kind of began to really resonate with you and with all of us. So that celebration aspect of coming back and being part of groups.
And as Krista brought the series to us, and she's our newest pastor, and this was her first, series she architected. And that celebration idea was kind of interesting because first we were celebrating that we were just back together again. It was the first time we had launched small groups in a year and a half. And it felt good, and we launched dozens of them, and it was great to reconnect, not just on Sunday morning in person, but Wednesday night and in homes again, in Rancho small groups. But this idea of celebration wasn't just about the celebration of getting together again, but really celebrating each other's lives. And not just the good stuff, right? Sometimes when we think about celebration, we think about, well, what are the good things that are happening? Fantastic, yay. No, it's more than that. It's celebrating all of life, which sometimes comes with some struggle and some heartache as well. And to bear each other's burdens in that way is a celebration. Even losing a loved one, you can celebrate that life, and you're kind of walking that grief together. That is a celebration of living life together. So it's not just this fake, hey, yeah, we're all here, and yeah, life is good. No, sometimes life isn't good. Yeah. But we still celebrate that we have each other, right? And we can walk each other through some of those difficulties. We're coming up on the loss of a friend of ours through COVID, and just the grief of that. And to walk with family and friends through that, it's difficult. But we celebrate the fact that we are there for each other. We celebrate the fact that, here's a life that's well lived that can be celebrated also. So it's a complex thing. Yeah. When we are in relationship with each other, it's the good and the bad, and we get it all. If we're gonna have an authentic friendship-based relationship and an authentic friendship-based church, it's about embracing it all, the good and the bad, but walking together.
Yeah, and I tell you, man, there has been a couple weeks over the last year. 1 week there was like 3 funerals. I officiated 1 week, and you see the power of people together. Oftentimes I hear like, I don't know how I can get through this without Jesus. And I sit there and go, yeah, I don't know how I can get through it without each other. And I think that is the very hands and feet of Christ as we're in this together. I love the statement on that Sunday. We talked about this as church groups are a celebration of God, a celebration of our stories, and a celebration of our life together. And that was a really cool reality, man. Watching people, even in the difficulties of life is as normal as the good things. And realizing how much God has designed it, that together, Solomon said, I pity the fool, right? I pity the man who goes, Mr. T came out there for a second. I pity the person that goes through these hardships and doesn't have anyone, but man, if we are together, we can keep warm, we can encourage each other, we can hang in there. So that's something to celebrate. Galatians 5:6 is a verse almost in every series we've been talking about over the last year. The only thing that matters is faith, which we talked about earlier. Faith that God is our Heavenly Father and loves us, and expressing itself in love. That's all that matters. And there's a lot of other things. Religion starts making everything else matter. But what we want in this is that we connect together, we look at others together as causes, but that we celebrate life together as we make it through the good times and the bad times. So yeah, that was a good, powerful
that simple thing, and I know it's simple, but it is about love. That's what matters, is how we treat each other, how we love each other. And as simple as that is, it takes a lifetime to figure out how to do that like Jesus.
It's not easy, it's simple. The pull-up is the simplest exercise. Yeah. But it ain't the easiest, right? So, yeah, totally. And then we, after that, it was a lot of fun, because then we did this Forever Young series. Yeah. And we wanted to just, coming out of this, especially, I think a lot of it was we realized how much kids suffered over this pandemic, not going to school, teachers that we talked to, that freshmen, when kids 1 year out of community and being together, was teachers, what they faced was. So we focused on this Forever Young. We had a fun day when we put up the picture with all of us. The whole staff kind of came up there, and we all came up together, and look at us. And we were kind of counted how many years. We all worked in youth at some time throughout our ministries. Yeah. That's how you and I met. We were both youth pastors here in town.
Absolutely, and then we started having Chinese food every other week or something like that. But that staff, I think the number was something like 240 collective years of working with children and youth. And then I went to our HR department and said, okay, we have the school as well, which is 1,100 kids and all these teachers, 70 teachers and administrators and all that. And what is the estimate of the total number of years we have worked with children and youth? And the best guess was 1,602 years.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And it just shows the passion of this place really is for the next generation. It's for the children, it's for the youth. It's been said that every movement is one generation away from extinction. Yeah. Every movement, every business is one generation away from extinction. Because if you don't connect with the young people, if you don't connect with the young generation, that generation will be the end of it all. There's this stream, this movement is a stream, and it can't be blocked by losing a generation. Jesus himself said, let the children come, as all the important adults are keeping all the kids away from the important Jesus.
He's busy,
Right.
keep him away. That's when he
he rebukes them.
Oh, yeah.
And he harshly rebukes the adults and says, let the children come. And they flocked to Jesus, and he got down on their level, and he played with them, and he says, the kingdom of heaven belongs to such as these. And so we cannot lose our kind of obsession with the next generation, the children and the youth, to make sure they're not, kind of raised in the slavery of religion, right? That, God is watching over you, he's brooding over you, do good, and threats and judgment. No, but to enjoy life, enjoy being loved at home, enjoy being loved by God, enjoy a church family where there's nothing but love here. All that matters is faith expressing itself through love. To have kids kind of raised in that environment just means everything. They will have a lifetime of thriving if they live a lifetime of love together. And then Jesus says, it's not just about priority for those who are young, but those who live young, forever young. Some of the youngest at heart people I know are some of the oldest in age.
Oh, yes.
They just love just learning and growing and thinking and exploring and spending time with young people. It's fantastic.
It is awesome. And and it's not just church. I mean, we got to start all our different ministries and stuff. This school here, right? One of the things I've always loved about Rancho, even long before I was ever even on staff here, is that, we have a big campus. But this campus, unlike a lot of churches I was part of before that are empty all week long, and then you have this Sunday service, this campus is packed every single day,
with
to my
kids.
demise sometimes, right? Because it's like never empty. 1,100 kids from preschoolers to high schoolers every day on this campus. And that is because of this vision. So it's not just church ministry. We always look at it that our children's ministry and our youth ministry have like 1,100 kids.
Right.
And we do see it that way. The kids and their families. I mean, this is a pretty exciting place to be throughout the week.
If you add up every young person that we get to interact with, nursery through high school, church and school and rescue mission, it's about 2,000 young people we get to interact with every single week.
Yeah.
And it is such
every
a
single
pleasure.
day almost.
Yeah, pretty much. That's true. Absolutely true.
Yeah, that is awesome. And one of the verses that out of all these series we looked at, this is the one you said, this one has to be in there. The other ones you didn't say, but this was the one because it's in the book of Joel chapter 2. And at Pentecost, when the Spirit of God drops and the speaking in tongues and all this going on, they're going, what's going on here? These men drunk. He says, Peter, I think it says, no, this is what was spoken of in Joel, where it says, I will pour out my Spirit upon all people. Your sons and daughters will speak the truth boldly. Older generations will dream dreams. Younger generations will see visions. In those days, I will pour out my Spirit on everyone equally, to rich and poor, men and women alike. And obviously earlier, right? Older and younger, equally. And he goes, this is what you see going on. So that Spirit of God coming was not just about like, this authoritarian older people just ruling, but about him moving, the Spirit of God moving in all people. And so what a cool verse, just as this Old Testament pointing to this time of Christ, that he is going to be touching the young people and using them to further his kingdom into the future.
I help to lead a network of about 1,000 churches, and most of those churches are interested in keeping their older populations happy. Yeah. Keep them happy and they'll keep coming. Keep them happy and they'll keep giving. Yeah. What's happening in the church, not just in America, but throughout the world, is you're not connecting with the younger generation. And so Christianity as a religion, I don't want to get too heavy here, Christianity as a religion is dying as a result. It is literally dying. What is being rebirthed is really a young movement of following Jesus. A Jesus-focused movement is happening that's separate from the Christian religion. I think we're a part of that movement. I'm excited about that movement, but it really, involves being forever young. Just that thrill for life and learning and following Jesus.
Yeah, so as we move into 2022, I just want to let anyone here know, and you that come to our church, even if you're online, that you want to get involved. Our children's ministry, youth ministries are always the places that need the most volunteers and struggle to get them a lot of times. So if you want to get involved, man, every Sunday, once a month would be huge. Just going in there and being with the next generation. How can I help? How can I be a part of it? You could be a part of that monthly, weekly. They would love it. The kids would love it. Like we talked about during that series, man, they will gravitate towards the oldest person that gives them a high five. Just watch me out there, right? Kids running for a high five, and I love it just because you're there. So go get involved and be a part of that, right? Sure. So then after that, leading into Thanksgiving and gratitude and thankfulness, we looked at the core heart of Rancho, mercy, justice, and love, a diverse community of friends advancing the cause of Christ through mercy, justice, and love. And it's our mission, it's our heart, and we want to just kind of go into that season to really focus on this.
So, this is the last of the series before we got into Christmas, and that Mercy, Justice, Love series, it just kind of writes itself because Jesus himself said the most important thing is mercy, justice, and love. Yeah. I mean, when Jesus makes it that simple, it's just a no-brainer.
Right.
It is embedded in our mission statement as it should be. It's key, especially in that fall season as we're headed to Thanksgiving and Christmas. It's a season of generosity. It's a season to look around and to say, okay, I'm thankful for what I have from God. I'm thankful for what I have from others. Now, I can be the one that other people could be thankful for. I could give a little bit of grace out there, of mercy. I can advocate for justice issues. I can be the agent of kind of real change and to bring this vision of mercy, justice, and love that Jesus had to this earth. I can play a part in that. So during that series, we supported about a dozen humanitarian efforts through our own agencies and nonprofits that we've started and nonprofit partners as well. This church, as usual, is very generous.
It was like every week
it was crazy.
Stuff was filling up out there, whatever we had coming in,
It was remarkable, the impact that we made this last fall and every fall as we really dive into our generosity and our partner ministries, particularly in the works of humanitarianism. Works of mercy that basically says, if you're in need, how can I lovingly and responsibly help you meet that need? Justice issues, what is wrong in this world that needs to be made right? Those are very complicated issues. And then, of course, all of it under the umbrella of love, which Jesus says is the one and only commandment to worry about. Let's just love one another.
Yeah, totally. And so, we each week had something going on, but we talked about that idea that mercy, justice, and love is about people, because the very heart of God is about people.
Now, you started this series actually with a statement that I thought was fascinating and people-focused, and that I think you said something like, every one of us is in need. Every one of us is a person in need. And so it doesn't kind of create this dualistic society where there are those that have and those that have not. There are those who are prosperous and those who are not. And it's sort of like this charitable giving down. Yeah. It's like, no, we're all equals in this. We all have need.
Yeah. I heard 10 years ago, a psychologist talk about if you treat everyone as though they're hurting, you're going to be treating about 95% of the people correctly. And I think that's a pretty powerful thought. And so that kind of changed my heart to just kind of start thinking through, what if I just assumed that everyone's hurting? What if I assume the person that is lashing out the most, whether it be like on the road or at a grocery store or in my own home, is a person in need instead of like they're ruining my need or whatever, And that changed my life. Like that idea changed my life. It changed the assumption that I have, how you treat people differently. Kind of the golden rule in Matthew chapter 7, which is treat others the way you want to be treated. That's this narrow road that leads to life. It's true. And I've yet to ever regret, treating people as though they're in need. Because you realize, like, I do believe that in some way we are. Just this morning, I'm sitting at home just getting ready for today, and I just got a text from someone that now lives in another state. Man, I just miss having a cup of coffee with you, and I wish we can do that. And I was just like, I just said, dude, exactly what I needed to hear. Yeah. You don't know, what those words are going to mean to someone if you just assume everyone needs those words and everyone needs that encouragement and that care and everyone needs something. So that was really, powerful in my life, and I've just found it to make a difference in my home and outside my home and wherever I am, just to assume that. Instead of assuming everyone's out to get me and what's their problem and they're not paying it, whatever, so we're all assuming something, and that really has been a big deal for me.
And I think all of this anger and vitriol and division that's happened over the last couple of years really is rooted in that sense that people have a need, and sometimes that need results in fear and lashing out and self-protection. But really, it's just people who need more mercy, more justice, more love in their life, and we can be that to each other, for sure.
Coming all the way back, full circle to circles, we started off with this verse, John chapter 15, verse 12. My command is this: love each other as I have loved you. Just kind of coming back to that. having that be the focus all the time. I heard a pastor once say about a story. It's probably not a true story, but pastors always make up stories to sound good. But it's like he had talked about there was this pastor that he followed that gave this same message about loving one another, and then did it again the next week, and the next week, and the next week, and the next week. And finally, someone of his people from the came up and go, when are you going to choose a different subject? And he says, when you get this one. And I was like, you know what? I think I'm there, right? I can't hear this enough. I can't be reminded enough. And so we're just going to keep that up there, because that's what it all matters. It's the only thing that matters, right, is working this out together and moving forward.
Well, it is all about people. That's what Jesus said from the very beginning. And that's what we need to keep reminding ourselves of. It's really about receiving the love of God through Jesus and sharing that love with the world around us. And we will make this world as Jesus envisioned it, as he imagined it. Yeah. Little by little, it will happen. And little by little, it is happening, and we get to be a part of that. Yeah. And then we closed out our year 2 days ago with Christmas Eve, and we just kind of had some fun conversation leading up to Christmas Eve. Is anybody going to show up? We had 4 services, which I thought that's probably too many with Omicron out there and bad weather, and is anybody going to show up? And this place was absolutely packed wall to wall. I had a plan B that after the first service, we'd put up the walls to make this place smaller, as we had to do today. I'm surprised so many of you showed up today, actually. Good for you, that's great.
But pancakes.
It was the pancakes. Yeah. It was you. They heard you were up. But this place was packed, and it was so wonderful. I'm sitting up here, and this stage is packed with band members and vocalists and pastors and friends up here just celebrating the coming of Christ. And then we see all these candles up there, wall to wall, these candles lifted up representing the love of Jesus Christ, the light of Jesus Christ. I teared up over there every service because I'm a big fat baby. But just the fact that we're all together, that many people would show up on Christmas Eve in the rain in California, nobody goes anywhere in the mist, and just celebrate being together and celebrate the light and the love of Jesus Christ. It was a great way to end the year.
It was fun, and what a great year we've had. Thank you so much just for leading and the way you just encourage us week after week to love one another, and you just focus on these. You keep us on task. You keep us focused on it. I just appreciate that so much.
We have a fantastic team of great people, volunteers and staff. It was a great year. It really was.
Yeah.
Interesting. Don't want to repeat it.
Yeah.
But it was a great year, and 2022 will be even better.
2020 also 2022.
Right.
But so that's what we did. Next week, I will be teaching. You leave to go to Texas tomorrow to be with family.
That's right.
And so I'll be here next week, and I'm going to introduce you to a person that made as big of impact on me over the last year as anyone.
I can't wait.
And that will be what we'll focus on. Then we're going to start a new series on January 9th.
Yeah, it's called Ready or Not, the 8 core decisions that could revolutionize your life. And sometimes in the new year, we are ready to make just a couple of little decisions that will be game-changing, so can't wait to see you there.
So excited about that. So thank you all for coming out today.
Merry Christmas.
And we'll see you next year.
That's right.
Yeah, thank you so much, Scott. All right.